All right, live Panther-Lair Post-Game show getting started right now here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We'll let everybody roll in and get into the live stream. Oh, man. So the fun thing about these Saturday live streams sometimes is I do the post-game show here and the TV's over there. So, it's usually a Saturday unless Pitt plays a night game and they're one of the last games of the night. There's always something else on, and this just happens to be a Big 12 team hosting a MAC team, and the score is 17-10, or at least it was the last time I looked. Right now they're on a commercial break, but that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. We'll be watching that. A lot of interesting results, and in progress situations around college football, particularly related to the ACC and teams that are of interest to Pitt, either on Pitt's schedule or teams that are in Pitt's conference. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Clemson was interesting. Syracuse was interesting. West Virginia is still interesting. And, we'll see what develops with those games. But mostly we're here to talk about Pitt. 45-17 win over Central Michigan in Acrisure Stadium today. I got a lot of thoughts on this game. I got a lot of I forgot to check and make sure I have the right microphone attached. Yep, we got the right microphone. Good. Got a lot of stats to go over, got a lot of storylines to cover, got a lot of things to talk about after Pitt improved to 2-0 with this win over Central Michigan. We'll do a shot here in a little bit, and we will break this game down from every angle. Sometimes I kind of kill a couple minutes just here waiting for everybody to roll in so we can all be part of the conversation together. And I look up my stats and find the things I want to talk about, because I know what I want to talk about. There's one thing right off the bat with this game that I want to talk about, and there are a lot. There's a lot that we could get into. We could get into the run defense. We could get into Eli Holstein throwing for 4 touchdowns again. We could get into how Pitt's defense sort of spread the production around. We can get into how the special teams played. We could get into the fact that they didn't lose to a MAC team, which happens far less than you think it does, but it's happened enough that you think it happens often. Now that MAC team made a turnover against the Big 12 team. All right, we're not gonna comment on the West Virginia game as it's going on. We'll mention it when it ends, and we'll do that. We won't do play-by-play of the West Virginia game as we sit here. We'll have plenty of time to talk about West Virginia all week this week, and then certainly after the game on Saturday. That'll be a post-game show. Actually, the West Virginia next, when Pitt plays at West Virginia next week, we will go live pretty much as soon as the game ends. That's a road game. Jim's going to go down to Morgantown to cover that. I'll be here in Pittsburgh watching from the home base at Panther-Lair.com, and then we will start our post-game show pretty much as soon as that game ends. So, I know sometimes this delay, we start at 6:30 on a game that ended about 3 hours ago. I don't like doing it like that either, but the home games, and when we're covering them at Acrisure Stadium, there's post-game stuff to do. There's videos and just content to load. So we can't jump on the live stream and plus I was hungry. I need to eat lunch or eat dinner. And so we have to get all those things done before we start the live stream. So I apologize for the delay, but we won't have a delay after the West Virginia game. We'll be live pretty much right after, and I'm guessing we will have a ton to talk about after that one. All right, here's the thing. The number one thing, and I actually started writing an article about this. I'm sort of in progress. I actually mentioned it in my 5 takeaways from the game that I wrote immediately after the game ended. It's up at Panther-Lair.com. I'm writing an article about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to lead with this because I think this was it was the crucial point in the game. It was the turning point in the game. It was the point where Pitt solidified the victory. And ultimately, it was sort of what stands out to me the most about this game. And there's a lot. It's not to say that other things don't stand out. It's not to say that the defense doesn't deserve a conversation, or Eli Holstein or Desmond Reed or anything like that. But it was the sequence in the third quarter where Pitt gets the ball. They force dogs are not allowed in the post-game show. They force Central Michigan to punt to open the third quarter. Pitt gets the ball and goes 3 and out with a handoff. Actually, it was a Holstein run, a Desmond Reed handoff, and then Eli Holstein scrambled on 3rd and 5 and slipped and fell and only got 3 yards, so they had to punt. And so they give the ball to They give the ball to Central Michigan, and Central Michigan gets the ball at their 37. They drive 63 yards. They convert 2 fourth downs to get there, and they score a touchdown. And here, all of a sudden, here you are with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in the third quarter. I apologize. And Pitt's only leading by a touchdown. It's a 7-point lead, and I don't think anyone would be faulted for having concerns at that point and being worried and nervous. Look, because the MAC losses don't happen as often as you think they do. Dave Wanstead lost to Ohio. Paul Chryst lost to Akron. Pat Narduzzi lost to Western Michigan. Yeah, he lost to Toledo also. But I mean, bowl games rarely mattered all that much in the past. They matter even less now. I'm not going to count that, but the Western Michigan game certainly counts. Far more often, Pat Narduzzi is taking care of business against MAC teams. But now, here all of a sudden, you're in a situation where Pitt was leading 24-3, and now Central Michigan has scored 2 touchdowns back to back, and they've cut the lead to 7 points. It's a 1-touchdown game with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. This is not the ideal scenario in a game that never really should have been in question, never really seemed to be in question. All of a sudden was maybe a little bit in question. And the pressure is on Pitt now. They need a response after sort of sleepwalking for a little bit, mostly on offense, but it was partially on defense. They gave up a 63-yard drive. They gave up a touchdown at the end of the first half, which, yes, Central Michigan had a short field after the interception, but that doesn't mean you have to give up a touchdown. You could still force a field goal, and Pitt's defense was unable to do that. So it felt like Pitt was sleepwalking a little bit, and Central Michigan had the momentum. And this was a crucial point in the game. And I think if you text message with other Pitt fans or you were sitting with other Pitt fans, I think that was probably the general consensus. I got text messages saying this is a huge moment in this game right now because it's slipping away. And while I never really thought Pitt was going to lose, I don't deny that it was slipping away. I don't deny that it felt like the momentum was in Central Michigan's hands, even though statistically Pitt was dominating the game and Pitt seemed to be the far superior team. It was slipping away, and it was concerning. And so what happens next? Crucial point in the game. They kick off to Kenny Johnson, and he takes it back 47 yards to the Central Michigan 48. 2 plays later, Eli Holstein rolls out to his right, drops a bomb to Raphael Williams, and the game is over. That put the game out of reach. I don't know. I don't think Central Michigan was going to score again. I don't think that they found some secret on that 63-yard drive, and they were going to be able to keep rolling down the field. And, Pitt definitely would have lost if they didn't score there. But Pitt needed to take the momentum back. And they did it. And they did it with a big kick return and then a big touchdown. It was a 2-play drive, but the first play got 0 yards. It was a 48-yard pass from Eli Holstein to Raphael Williams that put the game out of reach. And I think that was huge. Huge. I mean, obviously it was huge in this game because it took the momentum back and secured the victory for Pitt. And I think it was big for Pitt to go out and do that, to take over a game, to reassert itself, even against a MAC opponent. I think it was big to go out, take back the lead that you had, you hadn't blown the lead, but you had let them get a lot closer than they ever really should have. And they end up, they rattle off, more touchdowns after that. Joel Goff scores a touchdown. You get the backups in there, Mason Heinchel and those guys, and Jakarian Turner gets his first career touchdown. And so, it's over at that point. But that was such a huge moment. I'm not really one that believes that, they've got an offense, they can just turn it on or turn it off or whatever, because I've never liked that, because if you can turn it on, why wouldn't you turn it on all the crucial moments and just win games, right? But in this situation, Pitt's offense needed an answer. They needed a response after not playing well to end the first half, after not opening the second half playing very well, and now allowing this game to become a 1-touchdown game. They needed a response, and they came out and got one, with some help from Kenny Johnson on the special teams unit, which I think we need a special shout out for those guys as well. I'm going to crunch the numbers a little bit more. I kind of ran some numbers right after the game, but I mean, Kenny Johnson and Desmond Reed are making a huge impact on field position and what you know on field position and where the offense is able to start and how they're able to do. I mean, really flipping the field. And Caleb Junko punted once today. It was a 47-yard kick. That's fine. Trey Bukowski made his longest field goal yet. It was a 43-yard kick. That's always good to see as you continue building confidence in the young freshman. But just seeing Pitt in a position where it was precarious, momentum was maybe slipping away, and they were able to take it back and then put the game away. A game that never really should have been in doubt. And I don't think it really was. It was like right at the precipice of being in doubt. It was right on the edge of starting to become really concerning, but it wasn't quite there yet. And with that touchdown, with that kick return, and with that touchdown, they made sure that it never got there. All right. Lots to talk about with this game. Lots of comments and questions in the chat screen. I appreciate that. We will get to as many of those as we can. As we always say, if you want to make sure we read your comment or answer your question, you can be a super chatter. Go down in the little dollar sign down there, kick a couple bucks to the podcast. And, we appreciate that. And we will make sure we read any super chat comments and questions. Make sure you put your comment with the super chat or put your question with the super chat. Now, of course, I think we got to do our shot of the game, right? Got the maker's mark up on the shelf. Get our shot glass out. What's our shot of the game going to be for this one? I thought about making it about maybe the Raphael Williams touchdown catch, the big pass from Eli Holstein, or maybe the Kenny Johnson kickoff return. But I kind of feel like, there's going to be a lot of shots of the game that go to Eli Holstein. They go to Kenny Johnson. Probably even Raphael Williams is going to get some in there. So I'll tell you where I'm going to go with the shot of the game. All right. Pitt's third touchdown of the game. A 2-yard pass from Eli Holstein to Josh Altman. Josh Altman, a freshman, or not a freshman, a walk-on tight end. I think, a guy who had to play because Jake Overman was out. Malachi Thomas seemingly was a bit limited. So it was pretty much Justin Holmes and Josh Altman. And Josh Altman played a handful of snaps. He didn't play the majority of the game. Justin Holmes played most of it. And we could give the shot of the game to Justin Holmes, who caught a touchdown on the previous drive. And then Eli Holstein followed it up with getting Altman with a touchdown, throwing to two different tight ends, touchdowns to two different tight ends in this game. And then now 3 different tight ends in the first 2 games of the season. But, shout out to Josh Altman. This guy comes in, he's, a walk-on. He's no higher than 4th on the depth chart, but he gets in there in the second quarter of a game against an FBS opponent and catches a touchdown, made the score 21-3. It wasn't the turning point in the game. It wasn't the biggest play in the game. It wasn't the biggest touchdown in the game, but shout out to Josh Altman, man. Like, good for him answering the call when it came. And we will dedicate this one to Josh Altman. So, Mr. Altman, sir, for your performance, you are the Backshore Apparel shot of the game, the honoree of this week's Backshore Apparel shot of the game. Listen, I got to tell you about Backshore. Backshoreapparel.com. Backshore was actually born in Pittsburgh, but it was built on the Tampa coast. It's designed for days by the water and salt in the air, but it didn't stop there. Today, Backshore hats are built for every season and every forecast. Whether you're chasing waves, hitting the trail, putting for birdie or bogey, or braving the Pittsburgh cold, wherever life takes you, Backshore Apparel has you covered. Explore the collection at backshoreapparel.com. Backshore, coastal roots, all weather ready. And Backshore is a great company run by a Pitt fan. He's a Panther-Lair.com subscriber, a member of Alliance 412, and supporter of all things Pitt. Our guy Mike down there at Backshore. So go check it out, backshoreapparel.com. And they sponsor the Backshore shot of the game, the Backshore Apparel shot of the game. Shout out to Josh Altman, man. Shout out to Josh Altman. Josh Newark says, please investigate the scam that is the find the football under rock that the kids always lose to. Yeah, the Junior Panther Shuffle. The children are 0-2 so far this year on the Junior Panther Shuffle. I'm not sure what's up with that. I don't know if the adults are leading them astray by yelling out, or maybe kids are just bad at that game. Josh Newark, more relevantly, says also Zach Crothers was a beast. And Zach Crothers, I think, has played 2 really good games so far. I think he was very good against Duquesne. And I think he, trying to get his stat sheet out here. Today, he had 7 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 tackles for loss. Officially credited with a quarterback hurry. Zach Crothers played a big game. And this is a guy, for a variety of reasons, a defensive lineman from from Florida. We don't see him as much. We don't really know anything about him. Zach Crothers was like crazy productive in high school. And remember, we talked about him, a lot when he committed and everything like that. He put up big stats. He was really, really good defensive end, but he wasn't a highly rated prospect. He wasn't really considered anything special. He was a 3-star guy. He has turned out to be a really good player. I mean, he is in that rotation. Jaden Moore continues to not play. So, I mean, you have Jimmy Scott and Blaine Spires as your starters. I mean, Zach Crothers right now is the number 3 defensive end. I would check my, I'm just going to check my notes real quick on when he rotated in. Looking at Central Michigan's second drive, it was Scott and Spires. And then when they rotated another defensive end in, it was Zach Crothers. And I bet if we look at the snap counts after the game, once they're uploaded, Crothers is going to be right up there with, with Scott and Spires, maybe right behind those guys, but you're number 3 defensive end right now. And he's producing. He's playing well, as a reserve defensive end. I'm looking at his stats from the Duquesne game. He had 2 tackles and 0.5 tackles for loss. So on the season so far, he's got through 2 games, 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2.5 tackles for loss. Like, take that production? Absolutely take that production out of a redshirt freshman defensive end for sure. Playing for the first time in his career. Big time step up performance from him. And I think the future looks really bright for Zach Crothers. You have Joey Zielinski as your 4th guy. You have Nate Temple behind them. If you could ever get Jaden Moore back in the rotation, I think there's a potential with this defensive end group to be pretty effective, and impact the game and get after the quarterback and make plays in the backfield. You just got to get more back out there. I'll say on the topic of making plays in the backfield, this is one of the most remarkable things to me about this game today. You knew it was a run-heavy team, and so you weren't going to get a lot of opportunities at sacks. Credit to Pitt for getting 4 sacks in this game. But more so the tackles for loss. Pitt had 11 tackles for loss in this game. And sometimes you see like a gaudy number like that. You might have one player who gets like 4 tackles for loss or something. You might have one guy that sort of, sort of boosts the overall production from the group. But in this case, Pitt had 11 tackles for loss, and I think 10 different players recorded at least like an assisted tackle for loss. Like 10 different players. Like Rasheem Biles had 1.5 tackles for loss. Crothers had 2 tackles for loss. Braylon Lovelace had 1. Kyle Lewis had 0.5. Jimmy Scott had 1. Blaine Spires had 0.5. Nick Lappy had 0.5. Who's this? Isaiah Neal had 2 tackles for loss. Joey Zielinski had 1 tackle for loss. Cameron Lindsay had 1 tackle for loss. You got a lot of different guys making plays and meeting in the backfield. And sometimes like the half tackle for loss, the half sack, whatever it might be, they say, they couldn't finish the play or something. I look at this, the fact that all of these guys have like a 0.5, like Biles is 1.5 tackles for loss. Lewis is 0.5 tackles for loss. Spires and Lappy were 0.5 tackles for loss. It's multiple guys getting into the backfield and really kind of controlling the line of scrimmage. So you're able to get in the backfield and make that many plays. Now, you're not going to face an offense that's as sort of favorable for Pitt's defense as this one. Like this is probably the most favorable offense for Pitt to face that they'll see all season. Like a run-heavy team that really just wants to run the ball. I mean, like that's Pat Narduzzi's Big Ten dream. I mean, he compared it to Big Ten football, and I think he did so lovingly and longingly. And, that's exactly what he wants to play against, is a team that wants to run the ball as much as Central Michigan did. Most teams are not, and they're not going to run it the way Central Michigan did. And you're not going to have all these opportunities for 11 tackles for loss. You're not going to be in these games where I think they only use their defensive sub package, the Delta package, maybe once or twice. I have it in my notes. I kind of jotted it down as we were going. They used 5 defensive linemen far more often than they used 3 defensive linemen. You notice that they had a jumbo defensive package with 5 linemen on the field. Isaiah Neal's playing outside as a defensive end a lot because he's just good enough to do that. And, he had 2 tackles for loss, although I think one of his tackles for loss, maybe his sack came out of the Delta defensive package, which has only 3 D linemen. But it was a really productive and effective day for Pitt's defense. They more or less pushed a MAC opponent around the way they should. If they're as good as they want to believe they are, they should be able to push a MAC opponent around the way that they did. Check the final stats here. Central Michigan finished with 217 yards of total offense, 40 net rushing yards. Sack adjusted, I think they ended up with about 60 rushing yards, but the 4 sacks take yardage off of that. 40 net rushing yards on 41 rushing attempts. Like you literally held them to 1 yard per rush. And again, that includes the sacks. The sacks are including, are coming off of those numbers. They're adding rushing attempts and including, the negative yardage. But I'm realizing this game is not in Morgantown. I said it was in Morgantown. It's not. It's in Athens, which Dave Wanstead lost in Athens, if you recall. That was a big bad loss, like Wanstead's second game. But anyway, really good defense. And I think there was again, Central Michigan had one drive. Basically one drive, one long 63-yard drive. And I think that was their longest drive of the game. The field goal drive was 53 yards and the touchdown drive was 63 yards. And they didn't have anything else over. They had, a 44-yard drive where they turned it over on downs, a 30-yard drive that they basically turned it over on downs. It was a really dominant defensive performance. Let's see. Mark Thurkel says West Virginia doesn't look good. Louisville doesn't look good. Discuss. Yeah, Louisville is interesting. Louisville's a really interesting team. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to Louisville week. Isaac Brown and Chris Bell are very dynamic players at running back and wide receiver, respectively. But that team doesn't look as good as maybe we were expecting them to be. West Virginia right now is fighting for its life, trying to come back to beat Ohio. Benjamin Glazer says wins are always better than losses. Given how Central Michigan played last week against San Jose State, we did well. Only weaknesses were a couple drives where Glasser, no relation, cut up the secondary. I don't even know if he cut up the secondary. I think he hit a couple passes, and mostly it was like out pattern stuff where they were able to use Pitt's, run emphasis against them. And I think they made 2. It's interesting. We were talking about this on the message boards. I think there were 2 catches that Central Michigan's receivers made that, like, for a team as run heavy as them, they were like really good catches. There was a 4th down catch that they made. I think on the touchdown drive, on the long touchdown drive, the second 4th down that they converted with like a 21-yard catch was like an insanely good catch. Same thing on the field goal drive when they converted like a 3rd down with another like really good catch. It wasn't even necessarily bad coverage. It was just really exceptional plays, which I got to think if you're a receiver on an offense like that, it's not a very, thankful job. You're just not doing a lot. And so those guys, shout out to them for being ready, stepping up when their number was called and making some big plays. Pitt fan H2P says Pitt wins. Jaheim White is out with a knee injury. Clemson is down 2 scores to Troy. Syracuse barely scrapes out a win against UConn. What is going on? That's a good question. Let's just check here real quick on the, we're obviously keeping an eye on the West Virginia game where it's 17-10. Clemson in the 3rd quarter is down 16-3 at halftime, I guess, to Troy at home. That's not good. As a matter of fact, that's really bad. Let's see here. Another Wombat says, what is up with Eli Holstein and will it affect us later on? what is up with Eli Holstein? That's kind of a big question, you know? I mean, like you're talking about a lot of things, you know, what is up with Eli Holstein? I mean, right now, on one level, if you want to look at it, what is up with Eli Holstein is that through 2 games, he has completed 70.5% of his passes for 519 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That's pretty good. It's the first time a Pitt quarterback has thrown for 4 touchdown passes or more in back-to-back games since 2021. Kenny Pickett did it like 5 times that year. He had like 3 games in a row. I think he threw 6, 5, and 4 against like Western Michigan, New Hampshire, and whoever they played after that, Georgia Tech. And they did like 2 games in a row at the end of the season, maybe like Virginia and Syracuse or something like that. And so Eli's got a little while to go to catch Kenny Pickett in that regard, but you know, even regardless of who the opponents are, if you're completing upwards of 70% of your passes, you've thrown for 500 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, while only throwing the ball 51 times. This is not that much. I mean, 25 attempts per game is kind of a lot, but it's not crazy. It's not 45 passes or something like that. He hasn't played the full game in either one of these 2 games, and he's thrown for more than 500 yards, and he's thrown 8 touchdown passes. So what is going on with Eli Holstein? That's one thing. But then there's the interceptions. And look, both of his interceptions this season were bad. I think he would even admit that they were bad. You know, his interception against Duquesne was just a terrible decision. Needed to be smarter with the ball, not be attacking the end zone there. Also see the safety when the safety is standing out there, and maybe just throw it to Desmond Reed, one of the best players on the team. His interception today, you know, just run the ball. Just run the ball. Like he rolls out. He does have a receiver open, but he's got to, as he said, he needed to put about 6 inches higher to throw it over the Central Michigan linebacker, Kwiatkowski. Instead, he just threw it right to the guy. And that's, you know, maybe you're getting a little bit greedy. Maybe your eyes are, your stomach, or you're thinking with your stomach, or whatever the cliche is. You know, it's the same thing on the 4th and 1 when they failed on the second drive of the game. Like, just run for that. Just run for that. Pat Narduzzi was like, well, that was the play call. The play call was go to the receiver. The receiver's open. And then it's 1 yard, man. Like, just run. You know, if you like, you want to run as a draw, you want to have him scramble, and it doesn't matter. Eli Holstein, just get the yard. You needed 1 yard there. You can get 1 yard. Make a little bit better decisions. So I think my takeaway would be that you're still, you know, he's not a finished product, right? He's not fully evolved the way he needs to be, or where you'd like him to be. He looks like a guy who today was his 12th career start. You know, I mean, in some sense, like this is the completion of his first season of starting in terms of games, right? Because he started 10 last year, and then last week and this week. And so, I mean, 12 starts. And I think, you know, he's showing some of that. It's not rust anymore. It's still sort of youth. And like, to some extent, like we talked in the offseason, we talked about Eli Holstein being a gambler, being a risk taker, being the kind of guy who wants to go and, you know, try to, you know, he's going to make some questionable decisions at times, trying to take risks to go big or go home, so to speak. And, you know, in the last 2 weeks, he's ended up having to go home on a couple of plays because he made a bad decision and threw an interception. I think overall, I think he's playing well. There's always going to be a concern with Eli Holstein that he's better scrambling when the play breaks down than he is dropping back and just sort of executing the offense. I mean, he does fine in some of those situations, but I think there's a lot of times that he drops back and it's just not, it doesn't look comfortable. You know, he either like makes his decision before the ball is even snapped, and sometimes that doesn't go well. And sometimes he's just at his best when he's scrambling, when the play breaks down, when he's off script. That might be where, you know, that might be his greatest strength. I mean, the touchdown pass to Kenny Johnson last week, touchdown pass to Raphael Williams this week, the pass when he threw to Kenny Johnson for a 40-yard gain. You know, all these things, like he's on the move. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's scrambling around. He's keeping the play alive. And that's what he's really good at. It's like his superpower, but you'd like him to also be able to drop back. And if the protection's right, make the throws, you know what I mean? And pick the defense apart. And I think that's probably something that's still developing for him. And so I look at Eli Holstein as not a finished product. I look at Eli Holstein as still growing, still developing, but making some pretty outstanding, sensational game-winning plays along the way. So will it affect us later on? He says, will it affect Pitt later on? Well, another Wombats question was, what is up with Eli Holstein? Will it affect Pitt later on? Yeah, if he keeps making decisions like that, it will affect them. It'll affect them negatively, and it'll just like it did in the Duquesne game, in the Central Michigan game. It directly led to a touchdown in this game today, took away a potential touchdown in the Duquesne game last week. He can't make those kinds of mistakes, but he's also thrown 8 touchdowns. Duquesne and Central Michigan, but he's thrown 8 touchdowns and completed more than 70% of his passes. Like, I'll take those numbers. Super chatters coming in. Another Wombat also was a super chatter. So it says, Eli looks amazing, but he makes some mind-boggling decisions. The early 4th down was on him, I think. Yeah, it was. I think it absolutely was, because he just needed to run there. I don't care if the play call is to throw to Raphael Williams. I don't care, if Williams was open enough, or it was just a sloppy throw, whatever. Like, you're scrambling and you have room, go. And he took off and he ran well in this game. I think his final stats, he had 4 rushing attempts for 36 yards. One of those was a 4-yard sack. So you take that out, he's 3 rushing attempts for, 3 rushing attempts for 36 yards. Right. Because he was officially he had 4 carries. Oh, okay. I see what it is. I'm sorry. 4 carries, 36 net yards, with 4 yards for loss on the sack. So his 3 times when he didn't get sacked, he picked up 40 yards on those 3 carries. That's a weapon for Pitt. It's a feature, not a bug. And it's something that I'm not, if I'm involved with Pitt at all, I'm not telling Eli Holstein to stop running, because it's too much of a weapon. It's too much of a threat. Teams have to respect it. And if they don't, if they don't respect it, he'll make them pay, and he'll get big runs and probably win a game that way. Like I could absolutely see him doing like the Cade Klubnik run, like the Klubnik did against Pitt last year. He needs to do that against Troy today. Klubnik does, although it looks like Clemson has scored a touchdown in the 3rd quarter, so it's now 16-10. But Holstein's going to win games with his legs, probably multiple games. Mark Thurkel is a super chatter, says, my wife Tiffany won't stop talking about Pitt's 4th down defense. Her question, why is it so bad? Ugh, sorry. Well, that's interesting. So Central Michigan was 3 of 5 on 4th down conversions. Let's look at what happened on those 4th down plays. So the first one they attempted and converted was a 4th and 4 from the Pitt 41. They threw, I think it was like an out pattern. It was an 8-yard pass. That was just one where Pitt got beat. They probably were anticipating run, or they just, they only needed 4 yards and they were able to get 8 out of it. The next one on that same drive, it was 4th and 4 from the Pitt 27. And this is the one where, the guy just made a great catch. And that wasn't bad. 1st down offense, 2nd down offense, 3rd down, 4th down. It doesn't matter what down it was. The guy just made a great catch. And sometimes, a great play beats a good play, and Pitt's coverage was good. That guy was great. And that happens. You know what I mean? Like you'll give it up sometimes. The next one, it was a 4th and 1 from the 30, Central Michigan 30. And this was the last one they converted, and they ran the ball for a yard. Central Michigan's a good running team, and they only got 1 yard. They needed 1 yard, and they got exactly the 1 yard they needed. So it's not like they pushed Pitt away that far. They needed 1 yard and they got it. And then the other 2 4th downs they attempted, they failed. They went for a 4th and 8 on that drive. And Francis Brew looked like he sacked or knocked the ball loose, and Kyle Lewis recovered it. And then they went for a 4th and 21 on their final drive, and, kid basically threw it away. So in this game, what you had was one guy made a great play. And then they, a 4th and 1, most teams should be able to get that. Most teams should be able to get that. So I don't know if Pitt's 4th down defense is so bad. It's just they had a couple of plays where they gave it up. Looks like something big might have happened here. I think Ohio has taken the ball back with about 3 minutes left to go. Not looking good for the Mountaineers, but again, we're not doing play-by-play of West Virginia. We're just going to keep going through these comments and questions here. Let's see. Jacob McGuire says Pitt did a decent job taking care of business. Central Michigan's not good, but aside from the bad pick before half, they look solid. However, I'm not convinced the offensive line is good enough. They can't run block. Yeah, that's still a concern for sure. That's still a big concern. Pitt finished the game 26 rushing attempts, 124 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 4.8 yards per attempt, which is good. Eli Holstein had 4 for 36 out of that. So if you take that out, you're now looking at 22 carries for 88 yards. So you're still around 4 yards per carry for Desmond Reed, Shakarian Turner, and Juelz Goff. Not bad on 22 rushing attempts. You'd like to be a little bit better than that. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if this is going to be a good run blocking offensive line, or I don't know if they are a good run blocking offensive line. They're not playing like a good run blocking offensive line. They did a decent job protecting Eli Holstein, I think, last week and this week. Still gave up a handful of pressures in both games, but mostly gave him a clean pocket. And when he started to move, they were able to keep defenders away from him. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm a little concerned when as the level of competition goes up and they have to play against, stronger, more talented power conference, power 4 defensive lines and linebackers and all of that. It's going to get tougher. It's going to get a lot tougher than it has been so far. And they haven't really run wild with their running game, even against Duquesne and Central Michigan. So that's a concern. I'm with you. I would say, Jacob McGuire said, I'm not convinced the offensive line is good enough. I'm not either. Not at this point. Let's see. ZC717 pointed out a little while ago that Oregon had put up 75 points on Oklahoma State through 3 quarters, 75-3 currently in Eugene. That was a little while ago. They didn't have 75 points. The final score is 69-3. Oregon against Oklahoma State. That's it's a Big 12 team getting beat pretty bad. Let's see. Scrolling through the comments and questions here. Larry's cousin says, if we don't beat West Virginia by 20 points, I'm going to be disappointed. They're terrible. Yeah, it looks like, well, I can't see the time right now, but it looks like time is running out on West Virginia at Ohio, because if they would put the thing on the screen, there it is. A little less than 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Ohio's got the ball. West Virginia is going to need a bit of a miracle here to get the ball back. Larry's cousin also says, I'm excited by how good the wide receivers and tight ends are catching the ball this season so far. Yeah, I mean, I think those guys are making plays and looking good. And it's interesting how you've gotten a real mix. Like Raphael Williams didn't do a lot against Duquesne. What did he have in that game? 1 catch, for 45 yards. Oh, that's all. Just 45 yards. I forgot he had that big catch. Today, obviously, the big game, 2 touchdowns. Had about, 5 catches for 81 yards or something like that. And 2 touchdowns. Really strong game from him. Kenny Johnson, 2 catches for 58 yards. Blue Hicks, only 1 catch for 19 yards after catching 2 touchdowns last week. The tight ends have been really solid. Josh Alsman had 3 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. Justin Holmes, 2 for 25 and a touchdown. Malachi Thomas had the touchdown last week. Yeah, I mean, I think Deuce Spann has done some nice work with yards after the catch. He had 16 today, and they don't put that in the official stats from last week of how many yards after the catch he had. But for being probably the two position groups that I was maybe the most down on, the tight ends and the wide receivers, I think both have acquitted themselves nicely so far this season. Playing against Duquesne and Central Michigan, I think they've done well. Maybe even a little bit better than I expected. I don't know if I expected to be as optimistic or encouraged by the play of the wide receivers and tight ends as I have been. They've really, I think they've showed up and shown out, as the kids say. I think Kenny Johnson is playing well, and I think Kenny Johnson's going to have games. Today, I think he was targeted twice, caught one, or targeted 3 times and caught 2 passes. He had how many catches last week? 4 catches last week. I think Kenny Johnson is going to have like a game or two where he gets 7-8 catches in a game. I think he's going to have some games where he really goes off and takes over the game. It's been spread around a lot over the first few games. I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different players caught passes. Actually, 10. No. Sorry, I was looking. They said Max Hunt had 1 target but no catches, but he did catch a pass, right? Caught a pass before the final touchdown. Yeah, he had a 20-yard pass. Why wouldn't they give him the 20-yard pass? Oh, geez. These stats are all messed up from today. You know what? I think they gave that to Josh Altsman. Altsman did not catch 3 passes for 31 yards. I think he had 2 catches for 11 yards. Sometimes the stats get a little messed up right after the game, but it's they're spreading the ball around well. Those guys are doing a good job, the receivers and tight ends, and I think they're exceeding my expectations. Let's see. Oh yeah, we did the Josh Altsman shot of the game. Matt Presto said you could get the shot of the Altsman shot of the game at plus 5,000. Should have hammered it. Mark Shillaju said that Pat Narduzzi mentioned that the second team corners played more than the starters. Any reason for that? Yeah, we haven't really talked about any of the personnel stuff. Rashad Battle did not play today, did not dress. He was not in uniform. He had a big wrap or cast or something on his left hand. Everybody could see that at the stadium. How many people was it? Would they announce the attendance at? Where is it? 48,424. Count them all. 48,000 people saw Rashad Battle with a wrap on his hand. He did not play. And then Tamon Lynham came out of the game kind of early on. I could look it up and see when that happened. So with Battle out, Shadarian Harrison started and played the entire game. And then when Lynham had to come out, Sean Lee Jr. went in. And Sean Lee was the first corner off the bench. Well, the second corner off the bench last week. The first guy behind Harrison with Battle and Lynham still out there. And then, once that happened, I think Harrison and Lee played like every snap the rest of the game. They didn't rotate the linebackers until very late in the fourth quarter. The safeties, they got Kavir Baines-Marquez in there at one point a little bit earlier than the linebackers. And because that was really the only other spot where they rotated in the back seven. But they really didn't use a lot of rotation here in this game. They really stuck with, Lewis, Biles, and Lovelace at linebacker. They really stuck with McIntyre and Brookins at safety, and they really stuck with Harrison and Sean Lee Jr. at corner. We'll see what happens. See what happens going forward. Rashad Battle having his hand wrapped like that doesn't seem like he's going to be back soon. Maybe he will. Maybe we'll end up being wrong about that. Tamon Lynham, we'll see the severity of his injury. But he had to leave the game as well. So those two guys played a ton. I thought they were okay. They're going to be challenged, though, by teams that can pass better. I don't know if West Virginia is going to be that team, but they'll be challenged when teams can throw better against them. Let's see. Some more comments and questions. Larry's cousin says, why is Pitt so cheap this year and not giving out rally towels to the fans? Only the student section that didn't use them all. Didn't use all of them 2 games in a row. I guess NIL is really hitting the budget or something like that. The students were waving their towels at the beginning of the game. I noticed then. Football stinks, says Chris. It felt like the Central Michigan receivers caught a lot of tough balls today. Thoughts on the secondary? Yeah, I mean, I think they were able to run some patterns. that kind of broke in front of the defenders, so they were able to get the yards. I don't, anecdotally, I don't feel like they got a lot of yards after the catch. I would have to look and kind of see what the stats look like there. Yeah, they got about 102 yards after the catch, actually. So I stand corrected. They averaged about 5 yards per catch after the catch. They completed a lot of passes, or passes to a lot of different guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 different Central Michigan players caught a pass today, and ended up getting some decent yard after the catch. But I feel like some of the crucial catches, they just I don't know. It just felt like, Pitt's secondary was, kept them, was sort of playing behind them. And, I don't want to say they conceded those catches, but the focus was obviously on the run. I mean, they were focused on watching the backfield, getting after the, getting after the running back, getting after the quarterback when he would run, and just trying to shut down the run game. I do think they made some really tough catches. I think they made some really good catches, like we talked about earlier, the Central Michigan guys. And so we'll see about the secondary. I mean, you asked for my thoughts on the secondary. I think Cruz Brookins continues to play really well. I think Shadarian Harrison is going to be really good. I think it'd be better to have Rashad Battle and Tamon Lynham back, so Sean Lee could be your fourth corner and not your second corner. But you got to deal with what you got to deal with in terms of injuries and things like that. 412 Pitt says, so do we want West Virginia to win so we get college game day, or do we want them to lose so we can laugh at them all week? Asking for a friend. Most of the responses are you want them to lose. It's not, I don't know if college game day was going to West Virginia. I don't know if that was just, what's his name, Pat McAfee talking or something like that. I mean, like, it would be cool. I get why Pitt fans would want game day to go to a Pitt game, but it would be at West Virginia. Like, you want it to come here. You want it to be in Pittsburgh. You want it to be at Acrisure Stadium and sort of highlight the program that way. I don't think most people usually care about who the visiting team is at game day. It's about going to the home team's stadium. So it'd be cool. It'd be a little bit more spotlight, but this is the backyard brawl too. It's going to get spotlight. You know what I mean? It's going to get national attention, particularly if it's a good game or compelling game. And, West Virginia losing, which it appears they are about to do, as Ohio runs the clock down 22 seconds with 4th and 3, with 22 seconds left to go in the game. They're about to, seems like they're about to put this one away. That I think probably hurts the national interest, because West Virginia is going to be, 1-1, not 2-0 coming into this game. And so I think that's going to be, that's going to hurt the national interest. And that's what you ultimately want, is you want a lot of people to tune in. You want a lot of people to be interested, and they'd be far more interested in a 2-0 team versus a 2-0 team than a 2-0 team versus a 1-1 team. The game day thing, I don't know. I just don't really care. Steel Will 51 says, I think the defensive line has taken some good steps forward early this season. I agree. I think today was a really good game for the defensive line. I think the ends played well. I think the tackles were able to get penetration, and, Francis Brew made a big play. Isaiah Neal made a bunch of good plays. I think that defensive line is coming together. And we talked so much in the offseason about how important the D-line was and how good they needed to be, and, what Pitt needed out of them and how they had to improve and everything like that. But they seem to be, they seem to be headed in the right direction for sure. Ohio trying to convert a 4th down and didn't quite get it. So West Virginia is going to get the ball back with about 17 seconds left to go. You guys might be watching this. You might be ahead of me. Maybe my stream is behind. But I'm going to try and turn away from that and not pay attention. Looks like Clemson just scored again though. So that's now 17-16. The comeback is on. The upstart Tigers trying to take down the mighty Troy Trojans. Let's see. Steel Will 51 says, offense spreads the ball around so much, it's hard to say we have a true wide receiver 1. Kenny Johnson, Blue Hicks, Poppy Williams all get similar targets. Think it might help keep defenses off guard. Yeah, and I think I think that's what Cade Bell wants to do. I think he wants to spread the ball around. I think he wants to get different receivers involved and kind of take whatever the defense is giving them. I think they believe in all of those guys. So if the defense is going to give up this route to Blue Hicks or this route to Raphael Williams or this route to Kenny Johnson, then they'll take it. You have to have Eli Holstein well versed enough that he's able to take that when it's there. But it does seem like they're content to do that. They'll spread it around and try and get as many guys involved as they can. I do think there will be games, and there were games last year where a guy would get like 9 targets in a game or something like that. And I think Kenny Johnson will have those games, but I wouldn't be surprised if Raphael Williams has those games or Blue Hicks has those games. They will, if that's what the game gives them, if that's what the defense gives them, they'll take it. Michael Balsaric says Pitt comes focused. They should beat West Virginia easily. I don't know about easily, and I don't think Pitt should be thinking easily, and I don't think Pitt will be thinking easily. Because you are still going to Morgantown. You are still playing a rivalry game. You're playing it on the road. Like you're going to have to earn that game. I don't expect to see like a blowout or something like that. I mean, would it be fun if it was a blowout or something like that? Sure. But I don't really expect that to be the case. I mean, like, I think if history is any indication, this is probably going to be another, if not a nail biter, it's going to be a close game, a tight game, a tough game, and one that, if you're going to win it, you're going to have to earn it. So I'm not going to say anything's going to be easy or anything should be easy. Mark Sholaju says the decision on the interception was not a bad one. Eli Holstein threw it too low. The receiver he was targeting was open. That's true. Decision-wise, like you're right. Like he did have an open receiver, and even he said, he just needed to throw the ball 6 inches higher, and then it would have been another big play. It looks like that's over in Athens. Looks like Ohio has officially beat West Virginia, so you got that going. And I think Eli Holstein was right. And I think you're right, Mark, that, the receiver was open. There was a play there to be made. But also you could just run, I don't think Eli Holstein saw that guy right in front of him. And that's kind of the problem. Like you didn't see the defender who was standing right in front of you or right in your passing lane. You need to be more alert than that. You need to be more aware than that. You need to have better vision than that. And you need to either run or make a better throw. Mark showed you also wants to know, were you surprised to see Mason Heinchel on the last drive? Not really. I've wanted to see Mason Heinchel. I thought they would try to get him in the game at some point if they could, or in a game. And try and get him some experience, get him comfortable on the field. I thought it would be last week. I thought it would be the Duquesne game when they put the freshman out there. It ended up being this week, and he leads the touchdown drive. It's hard to deny that Mason Heinchel looked good. You know what I mean? Like one drive, short drive. It was a 8-play, 69-yard drive, and he looked really solid. He made a couple of good throws. Where did he end up? 3 of 4 for 36 yards. Connected with Max Hunt, got the freshman tight end involved, nifty little throw, slick little throw. And, it was a good performance. We talked even in spring camp about or in training camp, I should say, about they should try and get Mason Heinchel snaps. They should try and get him on the field, get him experience, get him comfortable out there. And, it was in the Central Michigan game, not in the Duquesne game. But now they've gotten obviously valuable reps for Eli Holstein, but they've gotten Cole Gonzalez some meaningful time, and they've gotten Mason Heinchel some meaningful time. And this quarterback room that I think everybody that we feel pretty good about, that we think Pitt's in a pretty good spot, having the returning starter, the backup who's got a ton of experience in the offense, and then the true freshman sensation that everybody's excited about. That's a pretty good situation, and it looks like it's sort of living up to that. Cole Gonzalez looked good last week. Mason Heinchel looked good this week. Playing, at the end of a game against Duquesne, at the end of a game against, Central Michigan, being what it is, it's still, I think good reps, and those guys looked good. Steel Will says Eli Holstein is a gunslinger. He's not the same as Big Ben physically and doesn't have his arm, but his ability to keep the play going kind of reminds me of him sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I think Eli Holstein is in that mold of like these bigger quarterbacks that you see, these guys who are big enough that like if you want to tackle them, you can't just get a hand on them. Like you're going to have to put in some effort to bring them down. And so they're able to keep plays alive because they have that size, they have that strength and that power. That they can run and enough speed. They're not fast, but enough speed that they can run away from you a little bit, and Eli Holstein showed that. And Eli Holstein is like, he's willing to keep it going. He's not looking to sit down or slide or anything like that. I think he even said it after the game today. He's like, I got hurt sliding last year, so I don't really want to slide anymore. I don't know if that's good advice. I think you probably should still slide more often than you don't. But it was kind of funny to hear him say that. He's got that big quarterback kind of game, and he can throw on the run, which is probably the most important attribute. Like if you're a big guy like that and you can run around, you can shed tackles and all that stuff, that's good, but you need to be able to then throw while you're running. When you get out of the pocket, still look downfield and make good, accurate throws like he did to Raphael Williams for that long touchdown. Super chatter here. Josh Newark says, should Pitt be called tight end U after today? Let's not get crazy here, Josh. Come on. Justin Holmes and Josh Altman. Just because I do one shot in honor of Josh Altman doesn't mean all of a sudden it's tight end U. What are you talking about? Come on. Hold on, pull it together. Let me see. Where were we? Since I brought up that super chat, it throws me off on where we need to go. ZC717 says, Eli Holstein is fearless, but he does need to learn to make better decisions. This will be important when the competition gets tougher with Louisville, FSU, Notre Dame, and Miami. You're right. He does need to make better decisions, and it will get tougher as he faces those teams. But I think also he's going to keep getting more and more valuable experience as he faces better teams. I think, again, this was his 12th career start. And maybe you could probably make the case, considering when he went out of the Louisville game, this is no more than his 11th full game. Depending on, however you want to rate the Virginia game. I mean, it's not like he played all that long in the SMU game, but in terms of leaving a game due to injury and, playing, less than half, I mean, this is maybe his 11th full game of his college career. So I think everything is still a learning experience for him. And he's got a lot of talent. And I think he's got a lot of playmaking instincts, and he's shown a lot of those things. He showed them today. He showed them in the past. He just needs to keep growing, and he needs to keep developing. He needs to keep learning, and I think he will. And so as those tougher games come, they're going to present new challenges for sure. And it's not going to be as, I don't know if he would say it was easy yet last week or today, but it's not going to be as easy as it was in these two games to throw 4 touchdowns. He's going to have to find new ways to succeed and know that defenses know what to look for out of him. And so it's going to be more of a challenge, but I think he'll also learn from those challenges as well. Swim Boyd says we need an away game play-by-play stream for a game sometime. I'm not sure that we do. I don't know. I've thought about doing that. Not like a play-by-play, but like a game watch, like a stream, like a live stream during the game so we can sit and talk about it. But honestly, I don't know. I think it would be boring for you guys, and I think it would be harder for me to do. Like this is what I do during the game. This right here, this is, when is this in the game? This was today's game. This is the second half. So here, this is the second half. This up here, this is Pitt's first drive. This is the drive where Central Michigan scored and made it 24-17. Here's where is it? Oh, there's the Kenny Johnson long kick return, and here's the touchdown and stuff. I'm scribbling down a lot of notes, and while I have that going, I'm also on a separate sheet adding up numbers and stats and things like so. It would be really hard to do that during a live stream like Game Watch. You know what I mean? So like it would be boring for you guys because I'd be like this the whole time, you know, writing in my notebook. You know, I'd be you know, and you guys be like, why am I tuning into this? I just want to watch the game. I don't want to watch Chris when I'm watching the game. I don't want to listen to Chris when I'm trying to listen to the game. And I wouldn't have any interesting things to say. It'd be a lot of like, wait, who was that? Why was that guy on the field? What? Who? You shot who in the what now? And it wouldn't be fun for anyone. All right. Well, this has been fun for everyone, I hope. I hope you enjoy the live stream. Listen, do me a favor. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. We're going to cut it there because I got a bunch of stuff I want to write and articles. We're going to write about the freshmen that played today because a bunch more guys did. I got to reach out to Pitt about getting these Max Hunt stats fixed. We got to write more articles and publish photos and videos and all kinds of stuff. We'll have lots of coverage for you at Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you check it out. Panther-Lair.com. Like I say, like and subscribe before we go. And yeah, stay tuned because we'll have lots of video coverage for you here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So thanks for tuning into the live stream tonight. Thanks everybody in the chat. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks to the super chatters. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Pitt wins 45-17. Up next, it's the Backyard Brawl in Morgantown. Have a good rest of the weekend, folks. We'll catch up with you Monday morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.